Okay, welcome to week one of INET3011W, the social impact of IT. Today we're going to go over module one, which is the intro to class. So I'm going to walk through the syllabus a little bit, talk a little bit about the fact the W marker is writing intensive, which means we'll have a lot of writing in this class, a lot of different kinds of writing, but a lot of help along the way as well. And then kind of go through kind of some topics and understand kind of week by week. Usually these will probably cover 5 to 10 minutes and kind of give you an overview of what's going on this week. But please don't hesitate to reach out, send me an email, give me a call. Being this is online, it lends itself to getting lost sometimes, and there's a lot of material to cover in this course, as well as a lot of things to do, discussions and different writing things. So get a hold of me when you need to. Okay, so first I want to kind of talk a little bit about what we mean by IT, and then I'll walk through the syllabus and that, and just kind of give you an idea of the kind of the reasons behind this course. This has been something we've been planning to build for quite a while, and it's kind of the idea around how does IT really impact society from different angles, from a global impact, from an economic impact, from an environmental impact, and so kind of giving us the idea of how do us that are going to be in the IT field really need to deal with this. IT, or sometimes as it's called ICT when you throw the communication side in there, really does kind of break down to a few different kind of roles. And the way this course is designed is we really kind of looked at it from kind of three angles. So one is your personal contribution. So what are you doing? And so that'll be the first 4 weeks. And then it's working in a team. So not just what does it mean to be part of a team, but what is a team? What is leadership versus management? How do we communicate effectively with one another? What does it mean to, look through the lens of somebody else that's in your team? And then the third section, which is the last 4 weeks, is really what is your impact on society from a global perspective? So taking yourself out of your shoes and putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else, maybe somebody in the Chinese government, maybe somebody that is impoverished, that doesn't have access to the internet or other forms of technology, or maybe that's all that they have is internet and an iPad and nothing else. So really kind of looking at how that impacts environment, economics, kind of the macro level stuff here. So diving a little deeper in each one of these, again, there's many different roles you can play in IT, and I think that, as I've seen a lot of people contribute to different forms of IT, you could have a developer who's very focused on building software, a project manager who is looking at timing and milestones and making sure things are getting done. You also have the different levels, right? You've got management, leadership, executive, board level people. Usually those are climbing up the ranks over time, but you could start your own company and be the chairman of the board directly day one. So kind of depends on what you're thinking of doing and where you want to go. I think most of the people coming out of this program really are a little more in general IT than specifically in developer or project manager roles per se. The roles have been changing. 10 years ago, you were a DBA or network engineer, and neither of those roles are really what they used to be, and DBAs aren't really DBAs anymore. They're more storage management consultants and, different ways of storing data and where and why do we have access to those things. Again, teams, there's a difference between a group and a team, and a lot of it is around the purpose and the outcomes and what you're actually trying to do. So there's a lot of different elements and a lot of different rankings that kind of go into this, but I'll try to really rip apart when we get to that section, how to be effective in your role and to really think about, if you're a developer, the project manager doesn't probably understand what you mean sometimes by, refactoring code or getting into, GitHub or, some of the things that you do, nor does maybe a developer understand as much in a Gantt chart and things that have interdependencies. So sometimes we need to stop and ask questions, or think about how other people contribute to getting something completed. Usually in a group or a team also, we've got methodologies in how we bring things forward. So very purposeful. We want to go look at, how do we get to our end goal? It isn't that a developer just writes software and everything's good. You have to have quality engineers to test it. You have to have people to document it. You have to have project managers to make sure everything's going on. And if the external forces get in the way, what are you going to do about it? And then again, kind of this third leg is for all the other things and thinking outside of our borders of the U.S. And how we've kind of built companies based on our laws and our rules and regulation, policy, politics, and the rest. How do we really look at the global structure? And I think until the internet really took off, this wasn't really that much of a thing. So this is, 25 years in the making, really. But it's interesting to think about how different governments and different municipalities and religions and different things kind of weigh into how we make decisions. This week, we're going to talk and give a little bit of a self-intro through Flipgrid, so that'll be on our Canvas page there. And then really the big question for discussion is around ethical choices you make in this field. So thinking about anything from something simple as a bribe, don't take a bribe, to maybe something that might be a little more of a microaggression around somebody who's making comments about somebody that is derogatory or has connotations of getting into discriminatory conversation, such as age, gender, race, whatever. So think about that and how that kind of plays in. I'm going to flip over quickly to the syllabus here and kind of walk through this with everybody. So we've kind of changed the format, so this is all online now. It's all in Canvas, so you can kind of go through there. I'm not going to click through the instructor information, but you can do that at your leisure. To give you a little brief introduction to me, though, my name is Mark Lenganke, and I've been working here at the U since 1996, and teaching in various forms of operating systems, so network programming to our 4051 class, which is the capstone course, and languages, and so on and so forth. For the last 6 years, I've been I'm dating myself here, so let's just say that in 2014, our company was purchased by Converge One, so I've been the Chief Technology Officer there since then. Very heavy into developing products and intellectual property. So more on me in there, but I also have my contact information as well. So don't hesitate to email or call. Just know that when you call, I probably won't know your number and I won't answer. So just leave a message, and if not, just text me. Haven't had a home phone line since '98, so that's my cell. So again, a little bit about the purpose around what we're doing here. Again, our three kind of sections that we've broken this down into, a little bit of how we've talked about this, so you can go ahead and read through that. Really, from an educational purpose perspective, I think really what we're trying to do here is to make a well-rounded individual in IT. Most of what has always traditionally been taught is technology. How does an operating system work? How does a network work? How does a database work? All that is obviously very important. But it's also important to also think about how you contribute to the success of any of those things working or not. And one thing I learned many, many, many years ago was one person rarely contributes as much as they think they do. And it does take a team. It does take leadership. It does take direction. It does take a lot of smart thinking and strategy and the right skills and strategy to make things work. So with that, that's what this course is really intended to do, is kind of give you an idea from the non-linear direct things that we discuss in other courses to get in. This is not end-all be-all, the cumulative 100% of what you need. I think as we looked at how to build the modules in this course, we wanted to be effective at pulling in the right elements that made sense. I think as this program moves along and we run into odd things in the world like COVID and remote workers and things like that, and why we're having to be remote for this section, we have to sit back and kind of think about how that changes things, which is kind of a fun thing in this course as well. So from my perspective, it's really all about, getting you guys a flavor of some of the major things that happen. Being that it's Reading intensive, we also have a Reading Enriched Curriculum Plan, a WEC plan, that I will be using throughout this entire semester to work on different forms of communication. There's many documents and forms that we use, whether it be formal documents like an RFP or contracts, or it's semi-informal like presentations or emails. And so how, which, and when should we use any of those, and what is the content, what is the purpose, is there an outcome, is there a desired request in there, so on and so forth. So the course materials vary quite a bit. There's only one textbook that seemed to make a lot of sense from a timing perspective, so that's the Accelerate book here, which talks a little bit about Lean as a software development paradigm, which gets into Agile and some others. And so that's one that'll be in a few different modules. Everything else is linked per module. So if you were to go to any given module, if I was to go pull up one here just to show you an example. So let me go find one here. I was more looking for the pages. So in module 3 here as an example, you'll see the textbook is listed here. So that's one that actually uses that. If I go back to the next week, or our next week, you'll notice things are hyperlinked here. So, and be careful just to follow through with the pages that are marked here. Some of these documents are hundreds and hundreds of pages, and so what we're trying to do is pull out the relevant context out of any of that. So that's why that's there. Finish out with the syllabus here. Obviously, you'll need a browser, so we're pretty much going to do everything here. Being this is an online, obviously you're going to have the ability for you to record yourself and do Flipgrids and be part of conversations and that. There's outcomes that kind of go through everything. So the university has actually mapped outcomes all the way through down to courses. So there's course level, program level, all the way up to University of Minnesota level. And so these are the course level outcomes that we're achieving. And so these are actually mapped through the entire curriculum as we have it. And then as we kind of look at how things are assessed, or how the material that we're teaching is then evaluated for you to understand, and we kind of look at it in 3 levels. The knowledge level, did you, if I said the apple's red, that you'd say the apple's red. Analyze, this apple's red, but that is a banana and that's yellow. Or to construct or build something on your own. So maybe taking all these things and making a fruit salad out of it. So ideas of different levels of how we think about teaching and what we expect from an assessment perspective. Grades are kind of calculated and put out as this distribution. There's usually always the question on curving. That's usually not common practice that we have here, or at least any of the courses I have. But if something went awry, it's obviously an option. Extra credit's always something that's asked as well, and extra credit would only be something that would be given because of one of those circumstances, but be given to everybody in this class, just to make it fair for everybody that's in there. So there's a few things in here we need to talk about. So makeup work for legitimate absence are things that have to be done on a certain due date, meaning that if they're not done by that due date, you cannot turn it in. If you can turn something in later, then that'll be marked as late with penalty. So it's usually 5% per school day in my courses. But let's say an exam closes on a specific day. There's 2 things that need to happen. The reason has to be delivered prior to it being closed. So let's say that October 15th was due date of something. On October 17th, you can't come back and say, oh, this happened, that happened. Now, obviously, if there's catastrophic events and you were unable to make that communication for whatever reason, yeah, then that's something we can talk about. But this is the list here of the legitimate reasons. Just make sure you remember the timing on that. But, keep in mind that we're all human, so please come to me with any concerns or anything that might be coming up. Incompletes are listed here. This is just a U of M policy on those. I do know that if things are going awry and an incomplete is needed, that's something we should talk about sooner rather than later. Same with withdrawals. They just pretty much have a due date that has to happen by. And then I think a lot of the academic policies and the rest are there. And then this is a module breakdown. So as you kind of look through week in, week out, this is kind of this, society and technology, the beginning. We're going to get into next week is going to be around legal, license, and open source. Week 3 is going to be around development. And then week 4, which wraps up the individual part of it, is really around professionalism. So that's the makeup of the individual piece. As we get into the next 4, we're going to look at plagiarism and originality, and this is one I like to make sure everybody kind of understands because there's a difference between, academia and how we copy work versus professional. So I'll talk about that. What it means to work in teams is the next week. Meetings, having valuable meetings, which a lot of times we struggle to have, a lot of really meaningful things come out of a meeting. So talk about that, and then finalize the team part with agreements and contracts. What does it mean to invoke your team with another team in another company and usually barter for some form of trade, which is usually work for dollars, work for hire. So what does that mean? And then the last 4 are around what this means when you get out into the global side of things. And so we look at kind of this whole leadership side of things. What is leadership versus management? We look at the government and public relations. What does it mean to have a government? How does that help you? What does it do for you? Then we look a little bit at cultural and ethical differences. This is again spreading your mind. If you're U.S. born and bred and you've never left, it's a different world out there when you get to different places. Or if you've come from maybe a different country, maybe the U.S. is foreign to you. So thinking about something outside of where you came from and your knowledge of it. Talking about security and privacy is a pretty major topic of late. Not as much security, but more privacy in this course. What does it mean to, keep what is yours? Keep what that defines you private, and whether it's HIPAA for healthcare records or it's PCI for credit card information and many other things. It's kind of one of our latest things we're worried about. And then our environmental impact. So what's happening from our environment? What are we adding to? What are we contributing to, both positive and negative? And then the final one is really the economic impact. So what is this doing for our global economy? What did the internet do? What did the iPhone do? And so talk a little bit about that. So with that, that's a wrap for this week. And please reach out to me at any time, and we'll be back next week.